What is up, everybody? I'm No Luke's Given here with your afternoon snap, and today we're going to be taking a look at the deck that I found to be the most fun way to tackle Luke's Bar. And yesterday I said that movement strategies were like a basic way to approach Luke's Bar as one of the first things that you thought of, but honestly, this deck is far from basic. This is one of the most complicated decks in Marvel Snap because movement is a pretty tricky thing to pilot. You try to play cards on Angela, get buffs, move them around, and just do a lot of fun stuff. So we'll take a look here at a game and a half with this deck. A lot of crazy things going on. This game, we also get the Bifrost as our third location, and Muir Island is location number 2. So I'm going to continue to play the Hood into Luke's Bar to generate some demons for ourselves, and then I'll play our first demon and Human Torch into Muir Island. Those are going to pump up Angela, and they're also going to get some buffs from the Muir Island before being moved over into the Bifrost. So this is a really nice setup here for Human Torch. It'll get a few more stats before moving over and doubling itself. My opponent and I are both going to snap, and I think we're doing pretty good. They snap because they got the turn 3 Zabu, but we got the synergies with Luke's Bar, so I think we've got an edge on my opponent. And when we draw Iron Fist on turn 4, we get to go pretty crazy. Iron Fist is definitely a central part of the deck. I did bring it up in yesterday's video. I brought it up at the very start when I mentioned movement cards, and it serves a lot of roles in this deck. You can play it into Luke's Bar because it is an on-reveal ability. Same with Doctor Strange and Cloak, by the way. But it's also really cheap compared to those two cards as well. And you can use it either in Luke's Bar multiple times throughout the game, or you can use it to move cards into Luke's Bar, or both. I mean, here we get multiple uses out of Iron Fist, returning it to our hand while also still finding a way to add a card to Luke's Bar. Now, that Vulture is not going to stay there forever. That is going to get moved by the Bifrost, but that puts us ahead by 13 power into Muir Island to start things off. My opponent does give us a Widow's Bite, and then they also hit us with a Darkhawk, but honestly, we're still looking pretty good here. We're up by 6 over in the Bifrost with the same amount of units as my opponent, and now we get to drop a bunch of stuff on this turn as well. And here's where we will actually make use of Iron Fist. I'm going to wind up redoing this play a little bit here in a second. We'll see. There's, like I said, a lot of different options that this deck winds up presenting. One of the reasons that you might make a play like this is if you wanted to like Doctor Strange a unit over into Luke's Bar on the final turn. But for the most part, that's going to be overkill. You just need a real little bit of power in Luke's Bar in order to take that location. And Spider-Man, 5 power, is actually a pretty big breakpoint, as we will see in just a second here. We're going to Iron Fist that Spider-Man over into Luke's Bar and just play some additional cards to Muir Island so they can start getting some passive stats at the end of the turn here. It's a great place for my opponent's Widow's Bite and this Demon. We'll grab another demon, and then my opponent is going to go Spider-Man plus Absorbing Man. Oh, you know what? I was thinking they played Moon Girl. That's why I was saying that having 5 power was pretty important. They actually play Spider-Man plus Absorbing Man. But that's fine, because we're ahead by 15 in Muir Island, so even if they take that, it's going to take a pretty big commitment, and they still haven't actually found a way to add power to Luke's Bar. Also play America Chavez in the deck, just make it a little bit smaller, and I'll finish out the game just by throwing that into the only location that I can, but it's still going to be enough, and we'll get the win. I also wanted to issue a correction on yesterday's video and recommend that you check out the comments. A lot of people left some really cool, insightful comments on the various technical interactions with Luke's Bar that you might not already know, some of which I got wrong or wasn't sure about. But one thing that I got wrong in yesterday's video was the interaction with Luke's Bar and Leader. I thought it would be cool, especially with Ramp on Leader, to be able to play that into Luke's Bar twice, and then you'd also be able to copy any cards that your opponent played into Luke's Bar. It's actually not the case. Luke's Bar just bounces Leader right out of there and doesn't allow it to get any use if specifically you're playing your cards into Luke's Bar. This turn, I'm going to finish this game off with a Doctor Strange and then just an Iron Fist into Luke's Bar. Doctor Strange to move over the Vulture, and Iron Fist just to get bounced and pump up my collector a little bit more. So nothing super crazy on this final turn, but what is pretty funny is that my opponent plays a leader and gets absolutely nothing because both of the cards that I played were returned to my hand. Didn't know that's how it worked, but definitely got the better of my opponent in this one. Speaking of ramp, that was a pretty popular strategy today, just because Doctor Doom is one of the better ways to try to win Luke's Bar, and this game I just thought was really funny and I had to showcase. We actually don't have that much going on right now. We did just leech my opponent on turn 4, and that's pretty nice, but what I'm really hoping, and really good draws on these final 2 turns, perfect draws, we get to play a turn 5 Doctor Doom, and at this point, I am just praying, fingers crossed, for an Odin. And this is probably the quickest I've ever drawn a card and then immediately played it and pressed end turn. I was waiting for that Odin. Gets to make another Doombot in both locations and then also send that Green Goblin right back to my opponent and find the win. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm No Luck's Given. Peace.